So I've been pretty susceptible to this, and a couple of other media people have as well. But we'll usually see that graphic that comes on Twitter of the two bars, and one's really high and one's really low. And the high one has underneath it production. These are players that absolutely are doing everything possible to carry their team to victories on Saturdays. And then the low bar has coverage, meaning we never talk about them. Yeah, they're good for their program, but nationally, never brought up. And so we always say that we're going to bring it up in conversations, yet we never do because life gets in the way. Well, I'm not going to let life get in the way on this one. These are players that everyone should be talking about in 2024 that simply aren't because of one random reason. Real quickly, if you're new to the channel, my name is Cole Thompson, and I talk college football daily. So make sure you hit subscribe, the ring notification. That way you don't miss a single episode. And of course, tell your friends, family, mortal enemies, best of bros, college football freaks everywhere, because we're counting down to week 1 of the regular season. We're less than 10 weeks away at this point. Follow me on social media, wherever you get your social media channels, at Mr. Cole Thompson, the exact same as my YouTube handle. And if you want to be a part of the Monday Mailbag series or have a one-off video, email me colethompsonwriting@gmail.com or slide the DMs on Twitter. This is a really interesting subject because there's so many players in the world of college football, 134 FBS teams, that we just don't have enough time to get through every one. But that doesn't mean that they don't deserve their moment in the sun, especially when they are a big X factor and a main reason why their team is going to be talked about at any point during the regular season. And I'm going to start out with the player that actually made me think about this series. It's Texas Tech running back Tahj Brooks. This is a guy that absolutely can be an X factor and a reason that we are talking about the Red Raiders maybe sneaking their way to Arlington in November. Last season, over 1,500 rushing yards, 10 touchdowns, 5.3 yards per play, big weaponry for this Joey McGuire-led offense and Zach Kittley style. And you got to remember, he was second in the Big 12 when it came to rushing, only behind the Doak Walker Award winner Ollie Gordon. Yet, we talk about Devin Neal from Kansas. We talk about G.J. Giddings from Kansas State, R.J. Harvey from UCF. And we never bring up Tahj Brooks. Why? Because he plays for the Red Raiders. Name the last time that they've done anything of consistency to where they're actually at the highest level. He is one of the highest rated running backs coming back in 2024. And in a conference that really has been known for its ground and pound attack over the last few years, how are you not putting him at the front of your list? He's been consistent since Joey McGuire arrived on campus. He has been the bell cow running back for the Red Raiders. It's hard to imagine Texas Tech going anywhere in 2024 without Tahj Brooks being a main asset. And the same thing goes for Colorado State wide receiver Torrey Horton. I get that a lot of people aren't the biggest fans of Mountain West football. Number one, you're absolutely crazy if you're not, because that, my friends, is must-see spectacle on a Saturday night. Late Saturday. That's about ready to take over as Pac-12 after dark. But Torrey Horton is a name that everyone should know only because of one game last year. It's the Colorado game. Anybody remember how he played? Yeah, he balled out. He had the most receptions among any player. He had the most receiving yards, the most yards after contact. He kept the Rams in that game throughout all 4 quarters. And he finished with over 1,100 yards. But naturally, he's a group of 5 player, and we don't talk that much about group of 5 players, even though they put up exceptional numbers. This wasn't a one-year flash in the pan either. The year prior, he also had 1,100 yards. So he's going for a three-peat. There's a very good shot that he at least is going to get some conversation for the Biletnikoff Award alongside T-Mac, alongside Luther Burden. You could probably throw in Emeka Egbuka and Tess Johnson for that argument. He may be a better pro than he is a college player, or at least more well-known in the pros. But I can tell you what, he will forever be remembered for what he's done in Fort Collins during his time with the Rams. And the other part that's really important here, he's understood that he can be a big fish in a little pond and just feast up on everybody. Better his craft, be willing to make adaptability moves, and eventually represent the Rams at the next level. I do believe that he is one of the best wide receivers in college football. I don't care that he plays in the Mountain West. I also don't care that Brennan Presley has to work with Alan Bowman as a starting quarterback. Like, Alan Bowman's going into year 7 of his MD for college football, yet it's not the same level as what you want in Cam Rising or in Dylan Gabriel or in a ton of other quarterbacks that you would rather have. But in Stillwater, they're very content with having Brennan Presley as the guy on the outside. 900 receiving yards last year. 900 receiving yards in an offense that really catered to the rushing attack. Keep in mind, Ollie Gordon won the Doak Walker Award and basically took over games. But there were moments, third down, they knew they were going to run it. Agent Zero was taken out of the game. Somebody had to get open. If it wasn't Rashad Owens, it was Brennan Presley. And that was a big reason why, after that South Alabama loss, Mike Gundy kind of turned the corner, opened up the Jets and said, you know what? Let's lay waste on everybody. And he's coming back. It's a big reason why I can't quit Oklahoma State. I know a lot of people that can't quit Oklahoma State. You want to know the reason? Because if they have an offense that's catered to a lot of the strengths that are going to make this team dynamic. I like Brennan Presley. I think when you add him into what is going to be this rushing attack, this ground and pound forcefulness, there's a reason to believe that, once again, Oklahoma State, they're going to be showing up in Arlington. Everyone's going to be like, wow, can you believe that? Yeah, I can. Because you want to know why? Every few years, we see just really talented players come back that don't get a lot of praise, and it usually happens in a place like Stillwater. Memphis's Seth Henigan might be the most underappreciated quarterback in all of college football. And again, he's a group of 5 player. So naturally, we don't put him on the same pedestal as those like Jalen Milroe or Dylan Gabriel or even Shadur Sanders. But when you talk about consistency, there are very few players who come close to matching the criteria of a guy like Henigan. Last season, 4th in the country in passing, over 3,800 yards. And this is also not a one-year wonder. He's thrown for 3,000 yards on 3 different occasions. He also has at least 25 touchdowns every single year he started for Ryan Silverfield. And he comes back and he gets to work with a very similar offensive identity. He gets his number 1 receiver back. They upgrade at running back with Mario Anderson. They feel good about their tight end position. Their offensive line looks pretty good. If you want to have a conversation about where contests start for group of 5 teams making the college football playoff, it always goes with quarterback. The best quarterback in the country is going to have the best opportunity to guide his team as a group of 5 roster. And that's Seth Henigan. Henigan's better than most Power 5 quarterbacks. In fact, you can make an argument that if you put him on a Power 5 team, your roster just got better because of the experience. And now he's going to be a reason why in the first year of a 12-team playoff, we are going to see a second group of 5 team actually make it to the dance. My money's on Memphis, and in large part, it's due to Henigan. Just like my money is on Trey Moore coming on over from the American Conference and actually laying waste on the 40 acres. Like, Trey Moore is going to be a reason why Colin Simons is not talked about enough in his freshman year. And that's not an insult to Simons. What that is a compliment to Moore. Anybody know who this player is? Last season at UTSA, first year in the American Conference, leads his team in tackles for losses, leads his team in sacks, wins the American Defensive Player of the Year, and is a big reason why Jeff Traylor, once again, in a brand new conference, is able to keep the Roadrunners afloat. Now, he's going on over to Texas, where he's going to learn how to play in this new defense by Pete Kwiatkowski. But I see a lot of Jared Verse in this game. Do you remember when Jared Verse was coming out of Albany? Literally everyone was starting to scout him when they were on the radar. So Albany would play 2 or 3 games against ACC opponents. And then afterwards, there would be phone calls that were just hanging around. Hey, if this kid decides to enter the portal, we will offer him a scholarship. Last year, Texas got to see Trey Moore up close and in person. Don't think for one second that Steve Sarkisian didn't say, that guy will make my defense better. And then you look at what's going to be lost with the likes of now T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. They got to add in some pressure somewhere. That's where Trey Moore steps in. He was not a group of 5 player. He was a 5-star phenom at the group of 5 level that now is going to be, I think, a major asset to Texas defensive line and probably a big reason why the Longhorns don't really miss a beat going over from the Big 12 to the SEC. This one might be a little bit interesting, but Ricardo Holman is a cornerback that does not get enough respect because he plays for Wisconsin. You do realize who Wisconsin's head coach is, right? Luke Fickell. He did a pretty good job of getting this one corner to become an all-pro at a group of 5 school, Cincinnati. You ever heard of him, Sauce Gardner? Well, Ricardo Holman is not Sauce Gardner 2.0. I'm not going to go ahead and go anywhere near that level of conversation. But what I will say is this is a very solid, sturdy defensive back that can change the course of a game in the third quarter and the last man you want to be throwing to in single man coverage. Last season, 7 interceptions. I think he had 5 pass breakups, more interceptions than pass breakups. That's mind boggling in my opinion, but he's really fluid in coverage. He's great at the point of attack. He's not afraid to tackle in open space. and it's another year working in Fickell's system. That was a big blessing for Sauce Gardner, sticking around, being a part of Cincinnati's culture, being implemented and indoctrinated in what they want to run. And because of that, he ended up being a first-round pick. I'm not going to go as far to say that Hallman's getting that first-round buzz, but there's at least going to be a conversation to be had who is the number 2 cornerback in the Big Ten behind a guy in Will Johnson. Right now, it's probably Denzel Burke. In November, are we going to be saying that? I'm not entirely sure. The game against Alabama is going to be must-see spectacle watching this kid go toe-to-toe with a guy like Jeremy Bernard. Another guy that doesn't get a lot of respect, Old Dominion's Jason Henderson. This is the all-time Monarchs leading tackler. Like, he has every single record in college football for the Old Dominion Monarchs. And he's only going to get to grow past this year. And you know what I love about this kid? He is another name like a Torrey Horton that probably could have gone to a bigger school, probably could have followed in the same footsteps as Grayson McCall. It would have been really cool to actually see him be like Peyton Wilson's replacement for the Wolfpack defense. But instead, he's staying loyal to his team. And there are going to be scouts that will go to Old Dominion this year, will travel up to the northern part of Virginia just to see what this kid is all about. He's a consistent tackler. He's going to get you a ton of production. He's going to meet players behind the line of scrimmage. He's not afraid to go ahead and make plays in the open space. He can play a little bit of coverage. Old Dominion's going to be one of those weird teams that I don't think gets a lot of praise because of, again, they're not a program that is expected to do much this year. But Jason Henderson should be at least in every conversation for any award that is out there defensively. And yes, that includes All-American status, and that includes the Menardic Award. A running back that is going to, I think, take off in the SEC, and this is really where it's going to be interesting to see how everything unfolds. It's Marcus Carroll at Missouri. So many people don't know who Marcus Carroll is yet, but I think you will, because Missouri is going to be on almost every single television this year, at least once or twice. Their schedule is manageable, and a lot of people are putting a ton of money on them to make it to the college football playoff, including yours truly. But they lost Cody Schrader. That was a big, big downfall for this team. And a lot of people said, well, how do you replace that production? What are we going to see from Brady Cook going into year 2 with Kirby Moore's offense? What if there's any regression? I don't think you're going to have to worry about that with Marcus Carroll coming on in. This is a bruiser type running back that last year at Georgia State rushed for over 1,500 yards. He had 10 touchdowns. He averaged 5 yards per play. On top of that, he was top 10 in rushing nationally. In fact, there were only a few running backs that were better than him at the SEC level last year, and a few better than him in the Big 12. He was good enough to be considered All-American third-team status last year, and now he gets to be on a primetime stage behind an offensive line that is revamped but is very sturdy. Guys like Hayden Green coming on in, guys like Marcus Bryant coming on in, one of the best centers in college football. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for him in this balanced attack to not only force his way into the end zone, not only be consistently picking up first downs, but also putting the Tigers on notice that, yeah, we are not only one of the best teams in the industry, but we are going to be a threat on Saturdays. And one that probably actually garners some interest in winning an SEC title. A team that could win a Mountain West title and find their way into the college football playoff is UNLV. Ricky White's a big reason why. Ricky White last year finished 3rd in receiving yards. No. Not 3rd among wide receivers at the group of 5 level. 3rd nationally. You know who the first 2 were? Malik Neighbors, who went 6 overall in this past draft and was, in my opinion, the Biletnikoff Award winner, or should have been. And Roma Dunze, who was splitting reps last year with this high-tempo passing attack in Caitlin DeBoer's system out in Washington and went to the college football playoff. Ricky White was 3rd. Ricky White last year had over 1,400 yards, nearly 1,500 yards. On top of that, he averaged 16.9 yards per play, 88 catches, and 8 touchdowns. And he's back in the same offense with Brennan Marion this year. Barry Odom didn't leave overnight. This is a team that is going to at least put themselves on the map. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to immediately make wonders and find their way into the college football playoff. They still got to beat Boise State. They still got to beat a few other rosters. But when you look at where this team is and the fact that Ricky White is coming back, he didn't need to take NIL deals. He wanted to stick around and be a part of the Rebel system. This is an offense that caters to him. Brennan Marion was a big reason why Xavier Worthy started to hit his stride when he got to Texas. And then he gets a shot to become the offensive coordinator out in Las Vegas. There's going to be a big reason why Ricky White next year at the Combine is getting talked about as first round potential, maybe even early day 2 buzz. And it's because his catch radius is phenomenal. His route running is phenomenal. This, to me, is the most underappreciated player in the group of 5 level because there are a lot of people that don't even consider him a top 5 wide receiver at his spot. He's a top 2 wide receiver at the group of 5 level, and he's a top 10 wide receiver in my book. And lastly, West Virginia quarterback Garrett Green. Here's how baffling this stat is. Jaheim White, CJ Donaldson, and Garrett Green all rushed for over 720 yards last year and were a big reason why West Virginia actually got to 9 wins. Does anybody want to tell me how far away Garrett Green was from finishing second in rushing? He was less than 25 yards behind CJ Donaldson. That's how talented he was on the ground last year. Wasn't afraid to go ahead and take some heat. Wasn't afraid to go ahead and lower the shoulder to pick up a first down. And once he kind of hit his stride, that's when everything started to click for West Virginia. They were pushing the narrative that we may not make it to Arlington, but you damn sure are going to be a reason why you're pissed off that you're not there because we're going to give you everything that we got. He's back for another year. He's back in the same system offensively. More importantly, you're asking to uptick his numbers, and he's got another year of starting underneath his belt and another spring. The thing that I wonder about is, can that completion percentage go up? Because if as long as that starts to turn the corner, as long as that starts to eventually actually get to a new level, then we're talking about a team that returns both of its star running backs, that returns several offensive linemen, including their star left tackle. They have a good offensive identity and a manageable schedule. That week 1 matchup, people are going to go ahead and sleep on it very quickly because Penn State, we know what Penn State is as a program. We know what they're supposed to be this year. Do not be shocked if we're going down to the wire. It is the 4th quarter, and it's Garrett Green rushing in for a touchdown to take the lead. And now you got to watch Drew Aller and Andy Kolotnicki find some type of concoction that is going to get the Nittany Lions from being talked about in a negative light, kind of like Clemson was last year. I am very high on Garrett Green. I think he is a top 10 quarterback going into the season, and he may be a sleeper that you want to talk about for all Big 12 status. But let me know in the comments section down below. Who did I miss? Who are more players that don't get enough media coverage but should going into 2024? Like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that you tell your friends, family, mortal enemies, best of bros, and college football fanatics everywhere about this channel because we're on the race to become the #1 YouTube show talking about our favorite sport. More importantly, follow me on social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Mr. Cole Thompson. And then make sure if you want to be a part of the Monday Mailbag series or have a question that you want in a one-off video, email me, ColeThompsonWriting@gmail.com. That's it for me, folks. Have a wonderful Thursday. Talk to you tomorrow. Later. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. That's awesome. Thank you so much. But before you leave, make sure that you hit subscribe. And if you want to check out any of our other great work, make sure you click on one of the videos here. Am I pointing at the right spot? I'm not entirely sure. I'm really not.